Do you ever notice your toddler doing something that looks a little quirky or strange and start to wonder if it's normal or something you need to be concerned about? You might start to think, I haven't seen other toddlers do that. Should I take them to a pediatrician? I know once these thoughts creep in, they can start to cause a lot of stress and anxiety. The thing is, most of the time, these odd-looking little behaviours are just a normal part of your little one's development and nothing you need to worry about. With this video, I want to help you avoid some of those stressful situations by walking you through some of the most common behaviours that often cause parents to worry that are a part of typical development. Hopefully that way, if and when you do see them, you'll have an understanding of why your toddler is doing it and you'll know it's nothing to worry about. You'll also get an understanding of situations where you may need to seek further advice. So you'll know where that line is between developmentally appropriate and things that may not be a problem but are worth a quick check with your pediatrician or an allied health professional. So let's start with head banging. Seeing your toddler bang their head over and over is alarming and it's very hard to watch, but it's not uncommon in toddlerhood. Research suggests as many as 15 to 20% of babies and toddlers bang their head on purpose. Head banging can actually start anytime after 6 months of age and typically peaks between 18 months and 2 years, and then it gradually reduces. Now, the primary trigger for head banging is often related to your little one's limited vocabulary. This inability to express their needs or their big emotions such as frustration, anger, or stress can be overwhelming and frustrating. Just imagine how frustrated you would be if you had something to say but you couldn't actually communicate it. That's essentially what your toddler experiences. So when they can't say what's on their mind, they use actions like banging their head to show those big feelings. What you should notice is as your toddler learns more words, they should start to use their words instead of banging their head to convey their frustrations. Another primary reason some toddlers resort to head banging is because it can be calming. Now, I know that sounds a little strange, but the repetitive, gentle, or sometimes not so gentle thud against a surface can be very soothing to a child. And because of this calming effect, your toddler might bang their head over and over to help them fall asleep. While head banging is often just a phase, there are instances where it might raise more significant concerns. These include if the head banging results in visible injuries like cuts or bruises, because children generally stop banging their heads before it becomes too painful. So if they're injuring themselves, it needs to be addressed right away. Or the other reason is it's done in a playful manner. So it's essentially how your little one plays rather than a self-soothing strategy. Or the head banging itself is accompanied with other irregular behaviours, or it continues even after they've learned to talk and can communicate better. In these situations, it's a good idea to seek some professional guidance from a speech and language pathologist or a speech pathologist, as they're known here in Australia, or a paediatrician or a doctor. They can work with you to identify why your toddler may be head banging and ensure that your toddler receives the support that they need. Next up is the refusal to wear clothing. Now, don't get me wrong, toddlers often love running around naked at home. It's fun, feels different, and they don't yet understand that people are expected to wear clothes. Plus, they love to assert their independence, and saying no to getting dressed is one way that they can do this. But if you find that every time your toddler has to get dressed, they become extremely upset, take a long time to put on clothes, go through multiple outfit changes, tug at their clothes, or constantly scratch themselves once they're dressed, tell you that their clothes are itchy, the tags are scratching them, or the clothes are too tight or too loose, even if they're the right size, or they're preferring to stay at home and be naked rather than go to the playground, shops, or visit friends or family, then there might be another reason why getting them to wear clothing is such a challenge, and that is sensory processing difficulties. For these kids, the fabric or fit of their clothes feels so irritating or so uncomfortable against their skin that they simply can't tolerate wearing them. Now, you might think that's ridiculous. Clothes aren't that irritating. And it's true. Your clothes aren't irritating because you get to choose what you wear. But your toddler doesn't. They wear the clothes you've bought them. So let's imagine I bought you a top made from fabric that you absolutely hate the feel of and told you that you had to wear it all day. one of two things would happen. You'd either refuse to wear it or you'd put it on and feel uncomfortable all day, constantly adjusting it and growing more and more frustrated until you could finally take it off. That's exactly what your toddler may be experiencing every time they need to put clothes on that they don't like the feel of. And since toddlers can't explain what's bothering them, they may cry or protest whenever you try to dress them. This is exactly what started happening with our daughter when she was 18 months old. Every morning she would cry and scream whenever she had to get dressed. She wasn't trying to be difficult or assert her independence. She knew it was time to put on clothes and that she had to wear clothing to leave the house. And she would try so hard to find clothes that felt okay against her skin, going through one outfit after another. But the material, tag, seam, and fit of the clothes often felt like they were scratching her body or sitting in the wrong place. But once she found the right outfit, she was okay. So if getting your toddler dressed is as challenging as it was for my daughter, I recommend you book an appointment with an occupational therapist. We can work with you to identify your toddler's sensory preferences and suggest clothes that match these preferences. Once you have this information, getting your toddler dressed will become much easier. This next one is often assumed to be normal toddler behaviour because it's so common during the first year of life, and that is mouthing or munching on toys, clothing, and other non-food items. Now, before 12 months of age, babies do lack the fine motor skills to manipulate objects with their hands, so they use their mouths to explore instead. As their fine motor skills improve though, the amount of mouthing typically decreases because they can now handle objects with their hands. And usually sometime between 12 to 18 months of age, children stop mouthing items while playing. However, in saying that, you may notice occasionally your toddler starts mouthing toys or parts of their clothing when they're teething. And this is because putting pressure on their sore gum can help relieve that teething pain. But as teething pain should only last a few days as that tooth erupts, once that tooth comes through, the mouthing should stop. So if your toddler is over 18 months of age and is still putting toys, clothes, or other items in their mouth daily, it might be a good idea to book an appointment with an occupational therapist. We can help determine if your child is mouthing due to sensory processing needs or potential fine motor delays, and if so, we can provide specific strategies to support your little one's development. This next behaviour might catch you off guard and be a bit embarrassing if it happens in public, and that is your toddler reaching into their pants to explore their private parts. While it's definitely surprising, this kind of self-exploration is quite normal for toddlers, especially between the ages of 3 to 6 years. Young children are naturally curious and they begin to explore their bodies early on. This includes touching, poking, and pulling out all their body parts, even their genitals. This is just their way of exploring and understanding their body. Given that self-exploration is a normal part of childhood development, if you catch your toddler exploring their body, remember to stay calm and then do one of two things. You can either gently redirect their attention to something else, or you could set clear boundaries by saying something like, "It's okay to explore your body, but that's something you should do in private, like your bedroom. So if you want to keep doing it, you can go to your bedroom." What you'll want to avoid is reprimanding them with phrases like "stop it," as this can unintentionally create feelings of shame or guilt over a genuinely innocent act. Now, while curiosity about their bodies is typical for toddlers, if you notice that this behaviour begins to dominate your toddler's interests, pushing aside activities like playing with toys or friends, it might be a good idea to check in with a paediatrician or a child therapist for guidance, as they can help ensure that your child's curiosity is healthy and a typical part of their developmental stage. Now, before I move on to the next behaviour, I do want to quickly mention that saying "stop it" is just one of 8 common phrases we often use as parents that may work in the moment, but don't always deliver the intended message. In fact, they can send a completely different message. So if you're interested in finding out what those 8 phrases are, what message they may be sending, and what alternatives to use instead, click the link in the description to get your free copy of 8 parenting phrases to rethink and what to say instead. This next behaviour can be incredibly frustrating, and that is your toddler's sudden refusal to eat new foods or foods that they previously ate without a fuss. The good news is this sudden food refusal is a completely normal stage in a child's development, which tends to peak between 18 months to 2 years, and it's called food neophobia. This cause for this sudden fussiness is fear. As your child grows, they really start to pay attention to the colours, shapes, and textures of food. If something seems different or unfamiliar, they might be hesitant. This means they might reject a food solely because of how it looks or feels, even if they loved it before. The trick to overcoming this fear response is repeated exposure. By regularly offering your toddler the same food, you increase their familiarity with it, which can lead to a greater willingness to try it again. And just something to be aware of, it can take up to 15 to 20 tries before your child warms up to a new food. So patience is key. Just continue to offer the food without pressuring them to eat it, and it should happen. Now, although food refusal is a normal stage in a toddler's development, if your child's diet is very limited, meaning they're eating 10 or fewer different types of food or only drinking formula or breast milk, it's important to see a speech and language pathologist or a speech pathologist here in Australia who specialises in feeding, as they can help you figure out why your toddler is refusing food and give you strategies to help them eat a wider variety of foods. Another challenging part of parenting a toddler is managing tantrums. And honestly, the best way to handle them is preventing them in the first place, which is why I created this video. In it, I share 4 of my best tips for parenting a toddler and managing the challenges that come with it. These tips will help you manage challenging toddler behaviour, including reducing the frequency of tantrums, and also help make life with a toddler in the house a little less stressful. So make sure you check it out.